In this video, I'm going to show the rest of my in-game HUD setup. In the previous video, I showed how do I calculate the health bar and how do I update it through Kismet. Um, so in this video, I'm going to show how I actually draw all this stuff to the screen. In the previous video I showed just how do I calculate the health up there, and this is how I draw this stuff to the screen. And just to mention again, in the previous video I mentioned that I use an external script to actually draw this stuff. I don't use the default Kismet nodes that are included with the UDK. And again, this is the address for that, and right at the bottom of that page you can download the script from there and just add it to your scripts. And so normally, by default, the Kismet stuff is there to draw either an image or text through an event. The script actually, your event is the render HUD event, and that's this node. And that's essentially just to be able to draw these things. It's not an event like any other event. It's not an event you can toggle or anything like that. It just enables these nodes to actually draw the graphics on screen. And then in your actions, I called my script ext HUD for extended HUD. So that name will be whatever you call your script folder. So then you have these render material, which is cool, instead of just a simple texture, and then also rendered text or texture. And so this is the options that you have, which is much more extended than what the default Kismet nodes will give you. It also will respect resolution changes, so that's cool. Okay, so the way I use it is this is just a remote event that I use for level loaded, so I don't keep putting a bunch of new. I mean, this is actually called at a different time than when the level actually loads, so that's why I have a remote event for my level loaded events. Get the level loaded event. So I just enable my control so you can start playing the game, and I start drawing the HUD. And so the way I do it is I set up the render nodes with empty objects. So essentially the HUD is clear, and when I start the level I give these nodes something to render, which in this case will be I just plug in directly my object so I plug in directly these as objects, these materials. And in so that's a render material, so that's for the health bar. Plug that directly in as a material, and plug in my render texture, which is my health, my lives. I plug that in directly as a texture, which looks something like this. So those are my lives, and essentially the way I control my lives, you can see I just have a bunch of images. I just swap the image out. I will say that because I simply swap out the images, my draw calls doesn't actually change, and because I only have two graphics, I didn't really care to combine them. So I have two draw calls for my HUD essentially, or for my main HUD. And what you would probably want to do if you had many more things in your HUD is to combine those images. And you can, if you use the combined image, you can actually set up coordinates, like you can set up the coordinates and stuff like where in your image is the graphic that you want to draw. So the functionality for that is there. I just kept it simple. I kept separate images. I really didn't want to I basically just really didn't want to go and put in a bunch of different coordinates and have a bunch of different nodes and all this kind of stuff. I just wanted to keep it really, really simple. So my draw calls, could have been one and now it's two or whatever the case might be, but just isn't a big deal for my project. So just so normally you probably would want to combine your images and cut back on the draw calls. So that's basically how I draw my HUD, and obviously this is a material because I need to update through this and animate that material. And the way I update my lives is I have an event every time the character dies. Obviously I have a remote event that fires off my death counter, and then I just do a comparison and I see if is my death counter equal to 1 or 2 or 3 or whatever, and if it's 1 then I died once, then and then I do the same thing. I just add as an actual object one of these images, and that's if I have full lives it's this one. If I died once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, and so that just does that. So I will be able to go backwards and forwards. So if I add lives, it'll just run through and see, oh, is it equal to 3? Okay, I have 3 lives, so draw this image, and it just feeds it right back into this object variable. And if I want to completely disable my HUD, which I want to do, like if you completely die and you go to the game over screen or whatever the case might be, I want to completely disable the HUD. So I just input some clean object variables back into the HUD, and it basically renders nothing. And that is how my HUD works. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. That's it for this video.